Okay, well, we would like to say welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Cindy Erickson, and I'm a tour coordinator with Westworld Tours, and I'll be facilitating the presentation this evening. Joining me is Fred Priest, our tour director. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you, Cindy. Looking forward to getting back to talking a little bit about touring.
I'm sure, and we appreciate you being here with us this evening, and we can't wait for you to tell us all about our tours to the Black Hills and Medora. But everybody, before I turn the presentation over to Fred, I have a couple of items I would like to discuss. During the presentation, we will have everybody on mute, and we will also have a couple of pop-up polls asking for your participation by making a simple selection. And if you're viewing us on Facebook, the pop-ups will not show on your screen, but you can simply type your response into the comment section. So here we are, we're going to start our first poll, and I'll get that loaded up here before. So it's going to ask everybody, would you like to sign up for our email newsletter? And you'll get invites to future presentations as well as timely information on new tours. You can unsubscribe at any time. You will not be inundated with emails. You might be receiving a little bit more than normal right now as we're trying to keep everybody informed on our virtual presentation series. And you can sign up for email newsletter from Westworld Tours, or a combination of Westworld Tours and our women-only tours, Women Explorers. And if you've already signed up to receive them, that's great. You can already let us know that as well. And anybody who's joined us on Facebook, by all means, please just send us a quick message right now. Hit your message button on Facebook, and you can send us your email address, and we'll make sure you get signed up. All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, as I mentioned, we do have everybody on mute, and we encourage you to ask questions at any time throughout the presentation. And that being said, again, on mute, but please type your responses or your questions into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. Again, if you joined us on Facebook, please type your question into the comment section, and we welcome your questions, and we will answer as many as we can get to at the end of our presentation. So a little bit about us. As Western Canada's premier tour company, Westworld Touring has been serving Canadians from coast to coast with escorted travel throughout North America and around the world since 2000, celebrating our 20th anniversary last year. We present quality components, including modern, comfortable coaches, professional tour directors, experienced, courteous drivers, baggage handling, and excellent accommodations. We take in all the important sites and attractions and include several meals throughout the tour. Thousands of passengers have chosen our first-class style of touring, enjoying the great value, security, and stress-free environment, all while making new friends along the way. We know our tour directors enjoy getting to know you while on tour and love to see familiar faces, and I'm sure Fred can attest to that. Speaking about this, I'm going to launch our second poll now, and we would love to know how many people watching this evening have traveled with us before. So here you go. I'll give everybody a minute here to answer that poll, and I could share that with you at the end here. See, it looks like we've got, oh, it's a close fit. It looks like about 57% of everybody has traveled with us before. Well, that's great to see. And about 43% have not traveled with us before. So welcome. We look forward to meeting you on board one day soon, hopefully. And to those that have traveled with us before, we look forward to welcoming you aboard again. Thank you for participating in that. So Westworld Tours is proud to have provided refunds in full to all of our travels affected by canceled tours due to COVID-19. After all, you should decide when and where to travel, not us. Having your travel plans canceled was disheartening enough. COVID-19 has changed today's world, and Westworld Tours remains committed to the well-being and safety of our travelers and team. We are doing all that we can to adapt to the new requirements and expectations, and have enhanced our already robust health and safety protocols to keep everyone safe while traveling with us. We ask that you visit our website for the most up-to-date COVID-19 information and travel policies. And here's our lineup of our upcoming virtual presentations. On October 13th at 7 o'clock p.m., we're going to do a presentation on our Alaska and Yukon tours. October 21st, again at 7 o'clock p.m., is our tour to Vietnam and Cambodia. That's going to be an interesting one. October 26th at 7 o'clock p.m. is our new tour to Australia and New Zealand. And if you've missed any of our previous presentations, we have them all recorded and they're available on our website, westworldtours.com. So now let's get to our Black Hills and Medora tour. So you can dust off your boots and climb aboard our our Wild West adventure through the Dakotas on our tour to the Black Hills and Medora. There are plenty of things to see and do in the Black Hills and Badlands, from monuments and wildlife to incredible landscapes. You'll find granite spires, fresh mountain lake, and thousands of breathtaking views. You can see Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse Memorial, discover Wild West legends in Deadwood, and attend the greatest show in the West at the Medora Musical. Experience the cowboy chicaneries at the Chuckwagon Dinner and Show in Fort Hays, and learn the history of the Bison and the culture of Native Americans as you explore Tatanka, the story of the Bison. Founded by actor Kevin Costner, and I know that Fred is going to talk a little bit more about that stop. And of course, who doesn't love a Pitchfork Fondue? So at this time, I'm very pleased to introduce everyone to Fred. Fred's first tour with Westworld Tours was in the summer of 2000 on a Blue Jays tour. He continued casually until retiring from teaching in 2006 and has become a familiar and popular tour director to many Westworld travelers ever since. Fred has experienced a lot of firsts with Westworld Tours. He was the tour director for our first President's Tour, our first tour to New York City, and the first time Westworld Tours went to Costa Rica. Welcome, Fred. And again, thank you for joining us this evening. And we're ready to hear everything you want to tell us about the Black Hills and Medora tour.
Well, thank you, Cindy. And welcome to everybody that's joining us. To those of you who are joining us for the first time and getting an introduction to Westworld Tours, I especially welcome you. And of course, to those who've traveled with us before and those that have traveled with me on many of the tours that we've taken, a special welcome. As you can see, our tour starts in Saskatoon, and then for the convenience of our passengers in southern Saskatchewan, we pick up along the way through to Regina, and then we cross through the border and make our way to Medora, which is our first stop, and then we head on to Deadwood. While we're just talking, and give you a chance to scan the next slide where we're looking at the highlights, I would just like to share some thoughts on motor coach touring with Westworld Tours. This particular tour is a short, compact 6-day tour, and it's a perfect introduction to folks who've been thinking about taking a motor coach tour, but are a little hesitant. They ask the questions, what's the legroom like? How will I manage to sit on the bus that long? What is there to do on the motor coach? Is it a safe way to travel? Well, let me just answer some of those questions before we get on with this particular tour. As far as safety, as Cindy has mentioned, we have modern, comfortable coaches. We have very courteous and very safe, experienced drivers. And on our tours, we do everything to make the tour easier for you. From the moment we pick you up, we load your luggage onto the motor coach, to the moment we stop at the accommodations for each night's stay, we get your baggage off the coach and into your hotel room. As far as safety is concerned, all of our tour directors are certified in first aid and CPR. And as an extra safety benefit, we carry along an AED, an automatic external defibrillator, which we are all trained to use in case the need arises. Now, with the question of comfort, people often ask this when I call them prior to going on a tour and introduce myself. And I simply let them know that I'm 6'3" and I travel quite comfortably on these motor coaches. So now that you've had a chance to glance at the highlights of the tour, let's get into the tour itself, starting with day one, when we start with the pickup. We pick everybody up. We stop every 2.5 hours for a stretch break, coffee break, lunch break, depending upon the time of day. And when we get to our hotel in Medora, we will get everybody checked in on the first day of this tour. And then, time permitting, we'll do a short little tour of Medora, and then we'll be heading up to our first attraction. And the first part of that attraction, of course, is dinner. All the breakfasts and dinners are provided on this tour, and our first dinner is a special one. We introduce you to a Pitchfork Fondue. Now, that is exactly what it sounds like. If you take a look, you can see the pitchforks loaded up with ribeye steaks, and those are plunged into a vat of hot canola oil, and they cook them up to whatever degree of wellness or lack thereof that you wish. Then we fill up our plates with our steak and all the fixins and have an opportunity to enjoy one another's company as we look over the Badlands of South Dakota and the south end of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Once we finish with our fondue, it's time for the second part of our first night, and that is the Medora Musical. It is a musical that's been going since 1965, and as Cindy mentioned, it's billed as the greatest show in the West. From the top slide, you can see that our venue is an outdoor one, and we are in the Burning Hills Amphitheater. Remember that name, I'll get back to it a little later. The musical is a variety show, and it has a variety of acts, including singing, dancing, rope tricks, yodeling, and every year there are two main acts that vary year to year. And near the end, there's a special part of the show that links to the history of Theodore Roosevelt and their version of Rough Riders. I'm not talking the Saskatchewan ones, for those of you who are watching. This show, of course, is out of doors, so we are a little bit weather dependent. So you're always reminded to take along a jacket. And we do get back to the hotel a little later that evening, around the 9:30, 10 o'clock hour. So that puts an end to a very, very busy day. Then the next day, we continue with our tour of the Medora area and the Black Hills. After a great breakfast, we head on a tour of the south end of Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which is pictured in the bottom right-hand corner. This Badlands area has a tremendous amount of geologic and natural history. As far as the geologic history is concerned, we will talk about how that landscape was formed, including how we get those bright red colors, which, as some of you may know, are formed when underground coal seams catch fire and the heat bakes the surrounding layers into what are called clinkers. And remember I said Burning Hills Theater? Well, as you're at that theater, that amphitheater, you can see the red rock that have resulted from the hills actually burning, the coal burning underground, creating that. After our tour of the park and the Badlands, which includes visits to areas where we can see prairie dogs, plains bison, wild horses, and a variety of other natural wildlife, We then head back to Medora, and we continue to go to the Chateau de Moor. Chateau de Moor is that
Oh gosh. Fred froze on us right when he was going to talk about Chateau de Moors. Hopefully he will come back online soon and we can get caught up here. But again, as Fred was saying, you know, you're going to make your way to Deadwood. Along the way, you're going to enjoy the tour of North Dakota Badlands, followed by a tour of the Chateau de Moors, which Fred can fill you in on a little bit of the history on that. And then later that day, you're going to arrive at the Mineral Palace Hotel and Casino, which will be your home for the next 4 nights at Deadwood. And dinner that evening is included, as Fred did mention. You've got all your meals, all your breakfasts, all your dinners included here on this tour. So you'll enjoy a prime rib dinner at the Mineral Palace Hotel on your own. And Fred is back with us. Can you hear me, Fred? Fred, I see that you're still on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
there we go.
Perfect.
The wonders of technology.
It's great when it works, Fred.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, where were we? We were talking about the Chateau de Moor.
Yeah.
Well, while we're there, we're going to learn a little bit about the history as we tour the chateau. And we'll find out that some of the history connected with it is very uplifting. After all, we have the city of Medora that resulted. And also there's a tragic component that I will just leave to talk about when you are on the tour. Once we finish our visit to the chateau, we'll head back to Medora, give you an opportunity to explore the town site a little bit and have a lunch before we load up into our coach and make our way to our destination for day 2, which is Deadwood. And once we get into Deadwood, we will be staying at the Mineral Palace on historic Main Street in downtown Deadwood. And we'll get you checked into.
Oh dear, Fred, you've frozen up on us once again. As Fred was saying, you will get you into Deadwood. We'll get you checked into the Mineral Palace Hotel, transfer your bags to your hotel room, and then you can enjoy a leisurely evening and a wonderful prime rib dinner at the hotel. So I am going to move on to the next slide here. Again, on the pictures here on the bottom right is the Panorama Point outlook of the Overlook at the Badlands in North Dakota. Are you back with us again, Fred?
I'm back. I'm back. So
right.
as I said, we will check you into your hotel and get you all set up for your evening in Deadwood. Then looking ahead to the next morning, we will give you a chance to explore historic Deadwood. We will start off after breakfast with a tour of Deadwood and the surrounding area. And you will learn that there is quite a history connected with Deadwood, dating back to 1876 and the gold rush, which drew people there. We'll talk about the historic figures that you see here, Wild Bill Hickok, Calamity Jane, and a variety of other notorious individuals there. Our tour will take us up to Boot Hill, where you will see the grave sites as shown there of Calamity Jane. And you'll also learn a little bit about the importance of the Chinese immigrants in the establishment of Deadwood and the special place they hold in the Boot Hill Cemetery. You'll learn a little bit about the history of the site, including historic Saloon number 10, which was where Wild Bill was shot in August 1876 by Jack McCall. Then we will head back to town. We'll get everybody together after lunch, and we will take a visit to Tatanka. Now, as Cindy mentioned earlier, Tatanka was a site established by Kevin Costner to honor the North American First Nations, the Dakota people. Kevin Costner became very interested in the plight of the Native Americans when he was shooting Dances with Wolves, pardon me. When we visit the site, you will see that they've got a tremendous visitor center there that gives us insight into the life and ways of the Dakota people. Now, the name Tatanka comes from the Dakota, and it means bison, the story of the bison. And we will hear from a Dakota elder all about the life in the Dakota village. We will also have an opportunity to learn about the importance of the bison. Now, we know that the bison was the chief lifeline for the Dakota as well as other North American First Nations people. The buffalo provided them with food, shelter, clothing, hand implements, and over 100 other items to help their life be more comfortable. One of the key features of the Tatanka site is a set of bronze statues that depict a buffalo jump or buffalo kill. Now, I always mention to folks that I have to be clear here. Buffalo are really not scientifically called buffalo. They're called the North American bison. And the Dakota use bison and buffalo interchangeably. So if you hear somebody saying buffalo when we're down there, they're referring to the plains bison, the North American buffalo. Then after the story of Tatanka, we will head back to Deadwood, and you'll have the rest of the day free. Now, of course, a lot of people have already visited Deadwood and know it as a gambling or gaming center. And that was its claim to notoriety in the 1970s and continues to this day. So there will be some opportunities for some special slot tournaments and those things if you're interested. After a great supper, we'll be on to our next day, and that is when we get to explore some of the attractions of Rapid City. Now, we will make the journey through the Badlands twice during this tour. This first day, we will be heading directly to the area just outside of Rapid City, and we're going to take in two very, very popular sites. The first being the Reptile Gardens, and the name tells you all about it. This is a very large reptile zoo where they have all sorts of areas that are set up for examining and learning about various reptiles, alligators, snakes, and other smaller reptiles in the area. Here, this particular spot also has some marvelous botanical gardens, and these are probably some of the best in the north central US. Intermingled with these gardens are great mineral displays that show the mineral wealth of the particular area here. Now, when we're at Reptile Gardens, that's also an opportunity for those of you to grab a little snack. And of course, you can't go to any of these sites without visiting the gift stores. And they do have a tremendous gift store there that relates to all of the things that you see. And they have a tremendous selection of minerals if you happen to be an amateur geologist. Once we wrap up our visit there, we head over to Bear Country, USA, another very, very popular attraction. We start our visit there by doing a drive-through through their compound area. And here we have an opportunity to go through natural enclosures. They're made as natural as possible, where we can encounter bighorn and Dall sheep. We get an opportunity to see Rocky Mountain goats, deer, elk, and even reindeer, or caribou as the non-domestic version is known. They have buffalo compounds on site. They have cougars and bobcats, which of course inhabit the area, and naturally black bears. Now, if you haven't been to the site before or know anything about black bears, you'll look and say, why, these bears aren't all black. There are some that are orange, there are some that are brown. Yes, black bears come in many colors, And you'll hear all about that when we do our guided tour through our guided drive-through. Once we're finished there, then you'll have an opportunity to walk around their compound, and there they have a variety of young animals that you've seen the adults as we did our drive-through, and also some other smaller animals that don't quite fit into the compounds. And yes, you get another chance to go through the gift store there. That evening, we will be then heading back. We'll end the days with a visit to Fort Hayes. And Fort Hayes is a tourist site that it is the home to many of the sets and buildings from the film Dances with Wolves. Here you'll see craftsmen working with their hands and making everything from homemade tools, ropes, bricks, tin plates, and knives. And if you're lucky, you might even get your hand in making one of those items. We'll then all get together for a Chuckwagon dinner and a music festival, a music jamboree. And this is a tremendous meal that everybody goes away commenting and laughing about. The meal itself is served with baked potatoes, beans, choice of meat, bread, and lots of lemonade, and a special dessert that you'll just have to wait to find out about. Then we'll be entertained during and after the meal by what is known as the Fort Hayes Wranglers. This is a group of talented local musicians who entertain us with vocal and musical numbers, and once again, a highlight of the tour. Once again, we've got another fairly late evening, so by the time the show is over and we make the 45-minute drive back to Deadwood, everybody is ready to find their beds and enjoy a good night's rest. The next morning, we are heading back out into the Black Hills. And here's an opportunity to visit two sites that people almost automatically connect with the Black Hills. We will be visiting Mount Rushmore and the Crazy Horse Memorial. Now, on our way to Mount Rushmore, we're going to stay off the interstate, and we are going to drive the secondary highways through the Black Hills and have an opportunity to enjoy the gorgeous scenery. You'll have a chance to see some of the wildlife. We have some wonderful small lakes that the secondary roads go by, and you'll see why it is such a popular area for people in the summertime to take the drive, especially if you happen to be on a motorcycle. As we drive through, we will make our first stop at Mount Rushmore, the Mount Rushmore National Memorial. And believe it or not, this was a project that was started in 1927 to promote tourism in South Dakota, because people in the area needed something to help with the economy. So the monument was commissioned. And it was carved by Goodson Borlam. And when we get there, you'll find that there's a little bit of controversy that's associated with this particular project. It was publicly funded. In fact, just about 80% of the money to do the memorial came from government funds, and it was done on land that was expropriated or taken away from the Native Americans. And it was land that they considered to be sacred. And there's been a lot of controversy over the years about that. Now, the construction of the memorial continued into the early 1940s. And more recently, in the last 15 years, there's been a tremendous change to just the aesthetics of getting in to see the memorial. Now, I'm not going to bore you with statistics and numbers and all of those types of things, but there's certainly things that you can find out about once we get there and do our tour. And if you're coming on this tour, be prepared for a little quiz from your tour director. They'll ask you, besides Lincoln, who are the other three presidents who are more immortalized in the stone. Then after we leave there, we'll head to another great carving in the mountains of the Black Hills. And this one is the Crazy Horse Memorial. Now, the Crazy Horse Memorial was commissioned back in 1948 by, pardon me, by Chief Standing Bear, and he wanted to have the Lakota people represented in the Black Hills. He wanted their story told, and he wanted their warriors, their important people to be represented. And the memorial is that of Crazy Horse, who was a great Lakota warrior. Now, the memorial, as you can see from the picture, is not finished. The white statue that you see in the upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, pardon me, is what it is intended to look like. And you can see how they've advanced it over the years. Because this memorial depends on donations, it is not advancing as quickly as people would like, but our visit there will help them with the advancement of the completion of the memorial. Now, that being said, they have got an amazing visitor center. There they have a tremendous theater hall where you will learn all about the memorial, and then you can walk through and learn about the life of the Lakota people and see some of the tremendous crafts and work that they do. As well, on the open patio, they have a variety of cultural activities that we will be able to see and partake in. Once we finish here, we will once again be making our way back to Deadwood, and we will end our tour in Deadwood with our famous farewell supper, farewell dinner. Here, guests get together and a chance over food and drink to talk about the tour, talk about what they've learned, talk about their favorite things, and a lot of times to exchange addresses, phone numbers, and contact information with the new friends that they've made over the course of the tour. And we don't let that go too late because we're up early the next morning, and of course, the last day heading back to your hometowns and cities. So there, in a nutshell, is the tour. Tremendous tour to be on, a great introduction to touring with Westworld. And because it takes place in the summertime, it's a great family tour to go on. We often have families going, we often have grandparents and grandchildren going and making a tremendous family time out of the tour.
Oh, that's awesome, Fred. I know the Wild Wild West is always something that has captured me. And I have visited Deadwood and the Black Hills. And as you mentioned, the scenery is beautiful. The history is amazing. Deadwood is a fun town to be in. You really do have a sense of being in the Wild West at times. And I know that our travelers would enjoy it very, very much. So thank you again, Fred, for going through the tour for us. And we'd love to get to your questions right now at this time. So if you have any questions, by all means, please put them into the Q&A box and we can answer them. I do see that we have one question here. And Fred, I'm not sure if you're going to have the answer to this one or not. I don't know as I have the answer to it, but we have somebody watching that would like to know if there's otters at the bear country.
I do not recall seeing otters at bear country. I know there are some areas where they have some natural ponds and so on, so that might be a possibility. However, one way to find out that answer, join us on the tour and we'll see if those little critters are doing what they otter in those compounds.
Awesome, thanks, Fred. I know that we do have another question here from Sandra. Sandra has asked, when do the tours take place in 2022? And that's a very good question, Sandra. Thank you so much for asking that. I was just about to mention the tour dates for this particular tour. We're departing July 17th to July 22nd of 2022, so next summer. That is the departure that we are looking at, and Yeah, it's a popular tour for us, and I know our clients come back, as Fred can attest to, with nothing but wonderful, wonderful comments. They always have a great time. Fred, is there anything else that you would like to add at this point? I guess we could say that for our tours too, for those that have not traveled with us before, for any of our tours, our coach tours in particular, a deposit is required at the time of booking, and that deposit for this particular tour is 100% refundable up until 60 days prior to the tour's start date. And no questions asked. You're safe to book, and you can cancel for any reasons up to 61 days prior to departure.
Well, Cindy, I would perhaps like to just add, because we have a fairly loose schedule for this particular tour, we get to places when we get to them for the most part, except for the city tour of Deadwood. When we're on the motor coach and we're going through the Black Hills, if we see something in particular that is of interest, and when it's safe to do so, we'll pull the motor coach over. We give people an opportunity to get off the coach, take pictures, walk and explore some of the areas that we're at. And once again, all with the idea of making sure it's safe to do so. So if people have some questions, some concerns, say, oh, what was that? Is it possible to look at it? We do take that opportunity. It's not as if we're going through something that is completely scripted. We do have the places we want to get to, but we have fun getting there and getting back from them.
Absolutely. That is absolutely correct there, Fred. I know lots of fun happens on the coach too, so not just at your destination.
Oh, that's right.
At the destination, correct?
That's right. In fact, every tour guide has their own little bag of tricks that they like to use on the motor coach. So you may say, well, I've done one motor coach, I guess that's it. But you'll find if you get on with a different tour director, they will have some different stories, different games, different things to keep you entertained. And even if you travel with us for the second or third time, we're always looking for new ways to keep you on your toes as we're traveling on the coach.
Yes, yes. We did have another question here from Beverly. Beverly asked, is there any consideration for a tour at a cooler time of year? We've always operated this tour in the summer months. Again, the Medora Musical is an outdoor event, and it is in the evenings when the temperatures will be a little bit cooler than they would be during the daytime. Fred, any comments on the weather for, that time of year?
Well, and generally we take it that time of year because we can usually depend upon some nice weather.
Yeah.
As far as the musical is concerned, the amphitheater is set up so that as the sun is going down, it's behind us. So you're not in the heat of the sun like you might otherwise expect. Hence, we ask you to take that jacket. The coaches are air conditioned. So as we're traveling, you have that comfort. And of course, when we get to some of the sites, yes, it's maybe a little warm. However, sometimes the opposite is true. It can be a little cooler. I remember one tour where we sat on our bus for 45 minutes at Bear Country, waiting for a thunderstorm to go by before we could even hope to see out the windows of the coach. So weather is always something that is unpredictable. So we always shoot for what's the best time to get the most out of this particular tour.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Valinda asked a question here. Are you requiring double vaccination or vaccine passport? Sharon, at this time, it's an ever-changing situation, but anything that we are traveling to internationally does require fully vaccinated. Again, I refer everybody to our website, westworldtours.com. You can review our policies there with regards to traveling in COVID-19 requirements and restrictions and so on. Thank you for asking that question, Valinda. Lynn has asked a question. Where can you meet the coach? Is it just in Regina and Saskatoon? Lynn, I know Fred did mention this a little bit. But we generally start the tour in Saskatoon, travel down through Regina and down, but we do pick up, as Fred mentioned, can make arrangements to do some pickups along the route of the particular tour. Fred, do you have anything to add to that?
No, and passengers, our travelers quite enjoy the fact that instead of having to drive to Regina, if they're just outside of Weyburn, they can be picked up there. Or if they're in Craik, they can come and get picked up somewhere along the route. So we try to do that as much as we can.
For sure. Sandra has asked a question here. How many people on the coach? That's a good question. It's totally unpredictable, Sandra. We never have an accurate answer on that. But our maximum passenger count would be 50 passengers. We always use a coach that will carry more than 50 passengers. So there are always some empty seats on board the coach. But it can range anywhere from 30, 35 passengers up to 50, depending on how many people choose to tour. Fred, anything to add to that?
I think maybe it's just important to mention too, some people say, well, if I'm getting picked up at the second last stop, does that mean I'm going to be riding for the whole tour at the back of the coach? And the answer is no. We rotate people usually a couple of times a day so that you get to change your point of view on the coach. And also you get to have different folks across the aisle from you. So you get to know everyone on the coach really quite well.
Great. Thank you, Fred, for answering that. Let's see if we have any more questions. Lynn is asking, which highway do you take after Regina? Do you know which highway that is, Fred?
Well, when we leave Regina, we take number 6 highway. We usually head to Weyburn, and then from Weyburn we head down through the Unger crossing south of Tribune, and then from there, of course, we head down through Williston and make our way on the Can-Am Highway down to we have to go off a little bit to get to Medora, and then from Medora back into Deadwood.
Excellent. Thank you, Fred, for that. I think that pretty much answers the majority of the questions here. If you have any more questions, anybody out there watching, please, by all means, just send something in the chat there and we can answer your question. Carol has asked, is this the Passion Play? Do they still do it? Again, Fred, I'll let you address that one. It looks like somebody else has answered it too. It says the Passion Play closed about 10 to 12 years ago, and at this point it is the variety show musical.
Right.
Correct?
The Passion Play was in Spearfish. This takes place in Medora, and they're several hours apart.
Great. Thanks so much, Fred. Okay, let's see. I think we have covered everybody's questions. So at this point, I would like to, thank everybody for joining us this evening. And we will be following up with you in a couple of days with an email that will have a link to the itinerary for this tour. And you can always reach out to us for more information on this tour or any of our tours by visiting our website at westworldtours.com, emailing us at information@westworldtours.com. You can follow us on Facebook or by contacting your local travel agent. Again, thank you to everyone for spending the evening with us. We hope you found our presentation informative. And thanks again, Fred. We really appreciate you being here with us to share your experiences on the Black Hills and Medora tour. And go ahead, Fred.
I'd just like to thank people again, and good night to everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you on our next travel.
Great. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone, and take care. Bye for now.